Judaism and Peace. Finding Peace in a Religion That Has Been Tested Since Its Beginning. By Ryan Bussey, Mackenzie Lowe, Melissa Marr, Margaret Shin, and Elise Shelley. Peace is hard to define, as it has many different definitions. Merriam-Webster defines it as a state of tranquility, or quiet, a harmony in personal relations. For the Jewish, though, it has a much deeper meaning. The Hebrew word for peace is shalom. Shalom is used in Jewish culture in greeting and in parting, which is one of many signs as to just how integrated the idea of peace is in their lives. Shalom is not passive by any means, though. It is something Jews have to consistently work for, and in fact, many Jewish values are centered around peace, as it is seen as an ideal state of affairs. There is a lot to be found about peace in the Hebrew Bible. It all comes about, though, from the fact that the Jews were given peace due to the fact that they are the children of God, and it was part of the promise He made to them. Through these promises, they were also reassured of their faith and salvation. With God as their Father, the Jews do not always look good, though, nor do they seem to be at peace. This is because there are times where they must face punishment. But through this punishment, they become righteous and earn their peace. The Torah has a lot of effect on the lives of Jews as well, especially with the teaching of all humans being created in God's image and likeness. This teaching leads the Jewish people to value all people and be accepting of everyone. Even in hard times, the guidelines laid out for war work to avoid violent conflicts unless they are completely unavoidable. And even then, the morals of the soldiers must be kept in place, and the natural environment and the humanity of the enemy must be preserved. Even secondary works like the Mishnah and the Talmud point Jews to offer peace to all. In the end, no matter which holy text is being read, they all have a clear longing for peace. Here we will recite a couple of examples we found in our research to go along with the information presented on the previous slide. Psalm 34, verse 14 states, "Depart from evil and do good. Seek peace and pursue it." In Leviticus chapter 26, we hear in verse 26, "I will grant peace to the land, and you shall lie down to sleep with no one to terrorize you." Then, in Isaiah chapter 32, verse 17 states that, "For the work of righteousness shall be peace, and effect of righteousness, calm and confidence forever." Also, peace, or the more commonly used term, rest, appears multiple times in the book of prophets. These verses are only a sample of what all there is to be found in the Hebrew Bible about peace. Peace is always resonating in the book, and it is peace that keeps the Jewish people moving along the right path. Judaism has a large number of practices that have a basis in peace. In our research, two of the most common that came up were the celebrations of the Sabbath and Yom Kippur. Both celebrations are guided by Jewish law, or halakha. The Sabbath, in many ways, can be seen as a form of literal peace, as Jewish families abstain from any work to honor the Sabbath day. The day is then meant to be used to focus on faith and being in communion with God, which should then, in turn, promote peaceful activity. The other celebration, Yom Kippur, is one of the most important holidays in Judaism. It is the day of repentance, and as part of the ritual, many Jews will work to make peace with anyone that they have wronged in the past year. We will now move from the Hebrew Bible into the history of Judaism. Judaism has a very rich and expansive history, and it is something that is honestly too big to delve into its entirety. So we tried to pick out some of the major points. Whatever time period you look at in Jewish history, you're bound to find some form of hardship or suffering, a lot of which has come about in the form of many wars. This is not something that has gone away in modern times either. As Rabbi Menachem Creditor puts it, The Jewish commitment to justice is born of Jewish suffering. Woe to us if we allow ourselves the delusion that Jewish suffering is a thing of the past. One of the biggest events affecting the Jews came in 70 CE with the destruction of the Second Temple. This was a turning point for their attitudes. They used this as a sign that they needed to change the way they approached conflicts in hopes that they wouldn't lose any more temples. This resulted in the disappearance of the possibility of using military action when making a decision regarding the conflict in the future. Two more prevalent issues that resonate in modern times are Zionism and then the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Zionism arose as the idea of the return of Israel to the land of Israel. Many forms of Judaism had come together in support of the Zionist movement and the attempt to reestablish the sovereignty of Jews in Israel. This brought together both secular and religious Jews in hopes of reaching their goal, but then led to opposing views on things and a separation in the movement. Today, the idea of Zionism leads to much confusion, as many don't know how to view it. But for some, it is seen with a negative connotation, and for others, they support it as the hope for Israel to come together again. This confusion is not at the forefront of the problems today, though. That would be the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. It has been going on since the early 1900s, and it has all arisen from the British government taking what Palestine believes to be their land and giving it to the Jews. The perspective between the Jewish and the Palestinian people are very different and have led to much conflict and are even prohibiting peace. While peace may not seem to be in sight, it is not a lost cause. Many groups working for peace today are looking to resolve this conflict in particular. From the ups and downs of Jewish history, we now look at some individuals whose work has helped to shape Judaism in their lives. Moses' brother Aaron was appointed to be the first high priest of Israel. Aaron became the ideal image of what a peacemaker should be, preaching to all his people to strive for peace between friends, spouses, families, and tribes. He chose silence to be the best option when conflict arose, and in his entire time in this position he never fought with anyone. Aaron set the foundation for how future individuals should act peacefully in their work. From the early days of Judaism, we move to modern times. Two individuals, Yehuda Stolov and Salah Aladdin, were awarded the 11th Annual Institute of International Education Victor J. Goldberg Prize for Peace in the Middle East. They earned this honor through their work leading the Interfaith Encounter Association, through which they work to lead dialogue and study groups that have brought together Jews, Muslims, and Christians. These group discussions have led to very personal conversations and are working to fill the divides between these religions on the basis of cultures, beliefs, and traditions. Our last example is Rabbi Menachem Creditor, who is the spiritual leader of the congregation Nedavat Shalom. He has been named to the list of the 50 most influential rabbis in America. He has even spent time working in the White House to grow the Jewish voice in the world. He holds many other positions as well. In particular, he is also part of the Chancellor's Rabbinic Cabinet at the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. If the world is to make a turn towards greater peace, these men and their positions in the Jewish faith are the perfect guide for those around them and throughout the world to reach this goal. It is not just up to certain individuals to advance the world toward peace. Many groups play important roles as well. One such group is the previously mentioned Interfaith Encounter Association, which we said was led by Stolov and Aladdin. This organization has its basis in Jerusalem, and as we have already said, their major focus is getting groups of Jews, Muslims, and Christians together for deeper discussion on their religions and culture. They are working towards finding similarities and understanding their differences better. The next group is the Jewish Voice for Peace. Their work takes place in America and is guided by Jewish tradition. Their goal as an organization is to work towards the U.S. forming foreign policy promoting peace and respect for international law and for human rights in general. They feel Jerusalem needs to be shared in a way that reflects the spiritual and political importance fit for both Israelis and Palestinians, as well as all other religions. The last group, J Street, goes by their motto of being pro-Israel and pro-peace. Their work is done in hopes of regaining a national homeland in Israel. They hope to accomplish this through use of democratic values and the implementation of a two-state solution. No matter what work is being done by these groups, they all want the same goal. They want the conflict in the Middle East to come to an end. And these three groups are coming at it from a number of angles. So, along with the hundreds of other groups out there, peace is an obtainable goal. It is just a matter of combining all their works into forming one greater peace for all. Through our research of Judaism and the way of life in the Jewish faith, we have formed our own personal opinions on how the Jews have shown us to gain peace in our lives. The Jewish people show us how one way to live for peace is to persevere through all that is put in our way, and never lose faith in God during these hard times. Those practicing Judaism represent a minority among religious groups. Through their struggles with this, they strive to live peacefully by accepting all groups of people equally. For example, in the Reformed Judaism movement, they have begun to conduct mixed marriages of Jews and non-Jews, as well as including the LGBT community. This showed us that to find peace, we must be able to accept all those around with no discrimination, no matter what their background or lifestyle may be. The early teachings provided in the Jewish faith show us we must strive to live a life of love and harmony, and this will lead to forming a peaceful community around us. We found this to show the influence of parents as well, and how they lay the foundation for how their children should act, and what their tradition is for leading a peaceful life in God's eyes. This will lead to communities all around becoming more peaceful, which could eventually transition to a much bigger scale if everyone was able to get on board. Even through all their hardship, Jews simply try to act in the most peaceful and nonviolent way possible in order to return to the land that God promised for them. This is the foundation for all of their peacemaking. This too can be a model for how anyone should try to live their life. Their drive has made them exemplary individuals in our eyes. They are a guide showing us the need to fulfill God's will. They do this by including God and having reverence towards Him in all things they do in their daily lives. This is something we should all try to include in our lives as well, and strive for peace on earth. Here are our sources, and thank you for watching our video.